we all doing? Welcome to the stream. Let's complete this track before we get going, before we invite everyone on. Get some sort of funk on the go. This is a very bright light, should I? It's a bit harsh. Let's see if I can bring this down a bit. We've got some red wine today. We've got some shit to chat about. That's better. Where's my outro? You know what I've realised I've just forgotten? Is that these headphones are broken, so I'm going to have to change them, but I'll finish up this tune first. I'm going to have to change them now, because this is too bad. 1 second. That's better. These broke at the beginning of my D&D session last week, and I was just, it was so distracting to have 3 hours of D&D where one of my headphones was off. Hello, wisecrack. Yeah, so since you've not been here before, anyone who didn't see, I recently put out a video, wrote a video for wisecrack on borders and immigration. You should check that out. For wisecrack, the mode of this is that I get slowly more and more drunk and make more and more sloppy music. The wine will be cracked out soon. That sounds like a good jam to get started on. So we'll crack out the wine, I guess. Welcome to everyone to today's stream. Let's see. Mood's a bit low for reasons I'm sure we'll get into once I've cracked open the wine a little bit, but we'll carry on and we'll have a good time with the stream. For anyone who's not been here before, largely these are very unplanned. This is just me fanning about, which is fun if you want to see my hot takes on things. This is the most likely vehicle for them. Yeah. So today's wine, we're actually going for a good wine because my flatmate has subscribed to this sort of fine wine selection. But he's been drinking a bit less these days, so he's got lots of this fine wine left, and he's very generously given me this bottle to test on stream. So this is, I don't know how much this costs. So this isn't even from the bargain bin section of Sainsbury's, which is the normal, obviously, location for where I get my wine. This is fine wine. It's good. It's a good food. Oh, it's got food match. It's good with chilies, cheese and steaks, and I've just come from the gym, so I've not had my dinner yet. So I've just had a cookie and a protein shake, but we'll see how that pairs on the palate. 14% volume, so that's good. It's called Arabella. So let me do my sommelier voice to see if this is good. Arabella takes its name from the beautiful Arabian horses which grace its verdant pastures and are a great love of the De Wet family. Winemaking and viticulture are, however, how does that fit in there? Are, however, the family passion, which dates back to 1697 when the first De Wet settlers. When the first De Wet settlers in South Africa was appointed cellar master of the Dutch East India Company. Oh dear. Okay, we've got some real colonial wine this time. Let's see if the colonial wine tastes good. It better. Otherwise, what the fuck are we even doing here? So it's South African, 40%. It's red, Cabernet Sauvignon. Red. Smells nice. Another sort of feature of this being red wine, you are going to have to cope with my lips getting more and more red and my teeth getting more and more stained as this goes on. It's awful for me. This is why one of the reasons I don't drink red wine on stream is because it makes my face so red. But we're sacrificing that this time. Is the mic a bit quiet? Yep, that is nice. Nice colonizer wine, I have to say. I'm not sure what notes I'm picking up. Let's see. Picking up centuries of injustice, the blood of the colonized, and strawberries. Hello, Davil. We're just drinking some fine red wine, which is advertised as being from the first settlers in South Africa, so colonizer wine. It is nice. I don't know how to taste any sort of flavors in wine. People are always saying like, oh, it's got notes of plum and strawberry, but that's not in the wine. So I don't know how they pick that shit up. It tastes like wine. It's nice. Sometimes the wine's nice. Sometimes it's bad. One thing it's gonna do, which I can tell, which is really a thing that has hit me in my late 20s and now being 30. This is gonna give me some fucking heartburn. It's gonna give me some heartburn, and isn't that great? I love going on a night out and knowing that I'm gonna need a Rennie's. I love that. I love that feeling. It's like, oh, what am I gonna do? Have another gin and tonic or a wee Rennie's? Nothing funner. Oh no, Davil, this is one of Tamash's fine wines because he's drinking less these days and he's got a wine subscription. So this is, it's good. It's nice. I like it. It's good. It's nice wine. I just don't know. I don't know what the notes are. It's like with whiskey. I know that like you can pick up the smokiness and all that stuff with like the barrel. And that makes sense because it's aged in a barrel that's peat smoked, so you pick up those flavors. But when people are like, "Oh yeah, it's got notes of blackberry, notes of mango, notes of stuff, sweet or tart," I mean, not too sweet, but I wouldn't say it was tart either. I would say neither of those things. Yes. The tannins. Yes. Spin it a bit. It's got. I watched some. There is a wine TikToker I quite like, who's quite fun. I came across him because he did the London Marathon, and every mile he did a wine tasting where he identified the wine, which is like a superpower to me. I don't fucking know. Someone could provide a wide variety of wines and 5 or 6 different wines, and I could be like, they might be the same wine. They might be the same. But one thing he talked about is like having like sizes of drips going down to see how like I've forgotten whether or not this is right or which. It's like the heavier drips or the sugarier ones. I don't know, but I'm not seeing much drips. I mean, I've drunk some bad wine in my time. I've drunk some bad wine on this stream. So I can tell when like I'm like, oh yeah, this tastes bad. The runs. Yeah, I can tell when the wine's bad. It tastes bad. I'm like, this wine tastes bad. But I can't tell why. Sometimes, one time my brother got a wine from a shop bar because he's an idiot. And we could smell it from like 3 feet away. and it was really dark. He took this sip of wine, and I just saw it at the corner of my eye. He picked up a plant pot and vomited in it, and then put the plant pot down, and that was probably the worst wine I think I've ever come across. The distance that you could smell it from was really, and it wasn't like, oh, I can smell wine in here. It was, fucking hell, that smells bad. That smells like bad wine. This is from 2022. Arabella 2022. I'll say, does it pair well with a protein shake and a cookie? Maybe? I guess so. Oh, I forgot to read the actual flavour. Okay, let me do my wine sommelier voice again. So I'm just sort of like really, let me get into the character as a massive wanker. Dark crimson red in the glass. This intense and complex red wine brims with blackcurrants and supplementary cigar box and clove aromas. These flavours follow through on a full-bodied and structured palate with prominent yet ripe tannins. So I guess I'm kind of hamstrung here in that I've never smelled a cigar box. I'm not getting the clove aromas, and I normally like cloves kind of they kind of taste like aniseedy, right? That's the kind of flavour that cloves have. I'm not really getting that. Blackcurrant, sure. I don't know what full-bodied means or what structured means in this case. It contains sulfites. So there's that. All I can say is it tastes quite nice. It is a nice glass. Again, this is my flatmate's glass. Almost all the glasses I own have been stolen from pubs. 2 from the theatre. My gin glasses were stolen from the theatre. I promise you, coffee descriptions are even more pretentious and verbose and only occasionally useful. There's another thing I've come across is a coffee YouTuber who is very charming and very nice, and I'm sure knows what he's talking about. But and like I know sometimes I taste coffee. I'm like, oh, this tastes nice. The body is how it splashes or swirls around the glass. So that's full. It kind of... Is that full? Is that a full body? Can you tell from here? Cigar box smell. Yeah, we know your target audience. Make sure you breathe out through your nose after a sip. That can help draw it. Oh, let's try that out. Okay, let me smell it first. Okay. What I will say, and I'm not sure if this is just being tricked by the ball telling me, I can maybe taste blackcurrant? Maybe? Who knows? Should I start a second channel that is me just reviewing wine without any idea what I'm doing? That's got to be a thing that exists. There's got to be like a terrible wine taster YouTube channel out there. Maybe I can get like... No. No, I shouldn't do that. Fair enough. Okay, we've got conflicting ideas in the chat. Yes or no on different channels for reviewing wine. But I mean, I guess we kind of already do that. No one's yet to sponsor me. I have gotten, you know what's, I've gotten like 4 emails from different water companies, like bottled water companies this week for for wine, no, for water sponsorship. God damn, what a slip of the tongue. For water sponsorships, and it's bizarre. I don't know why they've suddenly decided this. They're very exact in how they email me. You can tell it's the personal touch. I get emails that say, "Dear YouTuber." It's like, thank you for taking the time to really personally craft your marketing messages. It's like, "Dear YouTuber, we have been watching your content and absolutely love your bright and innovative output. Sure. We think that you would make a great fit to work with San Pellegrino." That's one of them, legit, San Pellegrino, to email me. "We think you would be a great fit to work with San Pellegrino for a 30 to 50 second ad at the end of your channel. Please let us know if you would like to move ahead with this." It's like, oh, okay, thank you. First, again, thank you for the personal touch. My name is John YouTuber, so that shit, I just doxed myself. So that really is it. But I wonder, like, how would that fit into my channel? Like, here's 40 minutes on communism and how capitalism and the commodification of all things is destroying the world. But have you heard of San Pellegrino? They they do real good sparkling water. A very good and legitimate thing to be constantly producing. There's I think two things that I would actually do sponsorships for. Books, like Pluto Press or something, a radical bookshop, and the other one is sex toy manufacturers sometimes get in touch with like left-wing YouTubers. I would do that. I'd advertise sex toys on this channel. I think that would be fun. It seems like one of the least morally dubious things to advertise for is sex toys. So San Pellegrino can fuck off. But if, Dave's Dildos, if Dave's Dildos gets in touch and it's like, "Hey YouTuber, we've been watching your content and really think that you'd be a great fit for sponsorship of Dave's Dildos," I'd be like, "Yeah, Dave, show me those dildos. I'll do a 30 to 50 second ad at the end of my next video on, I don't know, fucking Ecocide or something about your dildos. Grand." Again, for everyone new who's watching, we do spend a good 40 minutes at the start of every single stream talking about Dave's Dildos. We will move on to more serious things as we go. Alright. Nobody in chat wants to talk about Dave's Dildos, so I guess we should talk about the last videos. Dave does good work. Yeah, we got one person. We have two recent videos that come out. First was a video on Malthus and Degrowth. Thank you, wisecrack. Hope you have a good time, and thanks for coming along for the for the wine tasting and Dave's Dildos chat. You can tell that you're working with a real professional. Enjoy. Yeah, I did a wisecrack video on. Let me actually find it. I should probably put it in chat. People have been missing a lot of my videos. I keep getting messages saying people aren't getting notified when I do videos or posts. Yeah, let me just find the video. We'll talk about the Malthus one first, and then we can talk about wisecrack. And here we are. How politicians weaponize migrants is the name of the video. sitting at 71,000 views. So that's fun. It's nice to see some of my writing do well for the change. There we go. Yeah, so the first one we'll talk about is the so we did a book review on a book called Limits: Why Malthus Was Wrong and why environmentalists should care. Again, this video's not done well. I'm not really expecting it to do, but people like it. People who watch them are enjoying them, so I'm gonna keep doing them. And I kind of enjoy doing them as well. Not a huge amount to say about that, except I should have included a couple of quotes from Malthus in that, and let me bring up the quotes now, actually, because I think they're handy. So if anyone's not seen that video, or has seen that video, fucking either way, here's a couple of quotes that I think are useful to explain. So the basic premise of the video, or the basic premise of it's a book review of a book which basically argues that Malthus is misunderstood in a lot of ways as someone who prophesied population growth being the end of the world, and prophesied destruction. And that wasn't quite what he was arguing. Instead, Malthus was arguing as a sort of early liberal capitalist philosopher and economist, that the rate of population only ever matches the rate of food production, and that is something that keeps in check food production, and that in order to basically sustain life, we need to have more, division, unequal division between the owners of property and the people who work property. Basically, he was making an argument for liberal capitalism, and a few people were like, "Oh, I'm not sure that I have seen this before. I'd like to take a look at, I'd like some quotes from Malthus directly to sort of support that point." And there were two that I think are very useful. The first one is that Malthus says, quote, "For food, no limit whatsoever are placed on the productions of the earth. They may increase forever and be greater than any assigned quantity." And this is one of the sort of pieces of argument that Malthus uses to justify a kind of productivism and developmentalism that actually ironically makes Malthusianism closer to some of the eco-modernists and the sort of green capitalists that accuse things like degrowth of being Malthusian. This kind of developmentalism is they decide this is what's needed, like Malthus, to overcome these limits. The second quote is, "For commodities, the raw materials are in great plenty. A demand for these will not fail to create them in as great a quantity as they are wanted." Again, this is one of those things that is quite funny in how it produces and how the argument is essentially developmentalist. It's for growth, for development of productive forces in order to sustain existing populations under capitalism. So whenever you hear, basically the argument of the book, and my argument as well, whenever you hear people say that degrowth is Malthusianist, or neo-Malthusian, and instead we need growth and production, they're actually much more close to making a Malthusian argument than degrowthers, which is interesting and kind of funny. The guy was named Malthus. Can't get any more cartoonish than that. I know it's pretty bad. Yeah, it's true. I feel bad about people not being notified, because I don't want to flood people's home pages with just constant promotion of new videos, but people don't seem to get notifications that new videos are out. Maybe it's because a lot of my stuff has been underperforming, so maybe I don't know, maybe it's maybe it's YouTube is not showing it because they've been underperforming. I don't know. Who knows how the algorithm works? Nobody really. I think the last time I thought about Malthus before your video was GCSE geography. I mean, that makes sense. The only other people who talk about Malthus this often are fucking Jacobin contributors and fucking Peter Coffin. We went from dildos to degrowth in Malthus. That escalated quickly. Hey, I mean, we are an intellectually agile channel here. We skip between. We are intellectual gadflies skipping between leaves of thought, dildos and degrowth. Yeah, nobody knows how the algorithm works. In fairness, I have called Malthus a dildo before, so not much of a leak. Yeah, that's fair enough. I know previously I said that the next video that I'm going to do will be the family abolition one, and the plan for the family abolition video is out on Patreon, and I am in the process of writing it. But I think the next video that will be out will be a response to a very bad review of degrowth literature that has just appeared in the past week. Hello Canada. Hello from London. So a few researchers have put out a very, what I would say, shoddy hit piece on degrowth this week. Basically writing what would they call a review of literature, degrowth literature, claiming that 90% of articles in degrowth, in the degrowth school, aren't analysis or aren't don't use evidence but are instead opinion, which is the sort of like statistic that if you read that, you like London, you know, it's full of the English. I know, they're everywhere. Actually, when I live in London, there aren't that many people who are native English, which is, I guess, quite nice. What was I saying? I lost my train of thought there. Oh yeah, 90% opinion. You're just like, hello, Henry Bullock. We just had wisecrack in here. Welcome. The streams are not very serious. We drink wine, make music, and bitch a little bit. But yeah, so this review found 90% are not based on analysis and are instead opinion, and that loads of the data is rubbish and wrong. There are some problems with this review, and I'll make a video and go into full details. But some of them are that one of the major problems with this review is that for a review of degrowth literature, they only did a database search of articles with degrowth or post-growth in the title, excluding a large number of studies, some of which, like one scholar who works in a degrowth centre doing a bunch of quantitative studies based on degrowth, said that out of the 30 studies that they've published, 20 would be excluded, and only 2 would be two of the quantitative pieces of research that they would do would be included within the review of the literature that this review made, which is a bad sign. Another problem is that I read through the whole article. There is a there is an argument in the video. They couldn't even be bothered to do a real. They didn't do a real literature review. They didn't read the papers. It was based on titles and abstracts. A lot of the quantitative research that they cite. Now, some of this qualitative research might be bad. But it's impossible to tell within the article because the way that they approach it is bizarre. They basically make an argument in one case that this qualitative research is illegitimate in a small sample because a group interviewed 43 people from 3 cooperatives. Now, 43 people to interview for a qualitative study is massive. That is a huge sample size for a qualitative study. For contrast, my PhD, which was a qualitative study mixed with a bunch of theoretical work, had 10 interviews. 10 is relatively small, but it's not it doesn't disqualify anything because it depends what you're using that qualitative information for. If I was to say, I have 10 interviews, and these 10 interviews show that beyond any reasonable doubt, this is how all social movements approach human rights, you'd be like, you can't prove that. That's bollocks, and that'd be legitimate. But if, as I do in my PhD, you say, here are 10 interviews, there is a remarkable consistency between how these particular groups interact with human rights, and this is indicative of a potential to develop a counter-hegemonic human rights strategy, that is legitimate, because I'm not drawing any generalizable conclusions. I'm picking up on themes present within social movements which can be built upon and generative. Within this literature review of degrowth, none of that is present. It is a bizarre attack on qualitative methods, not just on degrowth, but as the concept of qualitative methods. Not just qualitative methods though, but the concept of theoretical work as well. So they make this argument that 90% of degrowth literature is opinions, and ignoring, accepting the figure, accepting maybe that their methodology is correct, and 90% are not quantitative studies or qualitative studies, but are instead theoretical or opinion based, because there's no really, they don't define what they mean by opinion, and there's no they just say it in the introduction and the conclusion. They don't talk about what opinion means. So you have to assume what they mean there is a theoretical analysis building on previous research or something or other. And that is an obscene way to look at research. That's not right. That's not a correct way to examine a body of literature. And that really annoyed me. Marcus, I did not see that study, but that is really depressing. Thank you for sharing. Sounds a tad lazy of them. Oh, you know what the worst part of this was? They're during their analysis of degrowth literature, they said there's 2 points which are suspect. One, they accuse degrowth of colonizing other fields, and that would be an inappropriate enough thing to say if they didn't follow that up immediately with a weird and snide remark where they say something along the lines of, it's bizarre that degrowth is colonizing these other fields when degrowth scholars like Jason Hickel are constantly arguing about decolonizing the academy. And that's a suspect thing to say. That makes you go, what do you mean? What exactly do you mean by that? Because clearly decolonizing academic work is not the same as degrowth using other fields. That's odd. That's an odd thing to say. The second thing that they do after that seems like a personal shot. There are many examples throughout which seem like strange personal shots. And there's a moment in just before the end of just before the conclusion, where they say degrowth literature is also filled with what Steven Pinker calls zombie nouns. Now, I'm already suspicious, because who cites Steven Pinker positively? They say these zombie nouns are when you pick a word and you add like the suffix like ity or ishin or something at the end of it. And Steven Pinker argues that these zombie nouns are indicative of sloppy thinking and bad writing. Now, if I was to be snide, I would say that citing Steven Pinker was evidence of sloppy thinking. But that's just me. Included in these zombie nouns are, and this is just a selection, decommodification, which is a concept which is an analytic concept which is long well understood in both Marxist and especially feminist literatures. It's a technical term which refers to a specific thing. Another one they use is decoloniality, which is a school of thought, an emergent school within the academy. And that's another one where it's kind of suspicious that you'd take a shot at decoloniality. And the third is necropolitics, and we can talk about necropolitics a bit more in a second. Who's Steven Pinker again? Steven Pinker is like an arch neoliberal public intellectual psychologist. Big mad hair, very curly. He's a shithead. And you know, the last one is necropolitics. Necropolitics is obviously quite a well fleshed out theoretical and philosophical concept. Now, that doesn't mean that people use these terms correctly, but the presence of those terms is not indicative of anything, and the notion that it is indicative of you not taking them seriously. So yeah, I found this I found this hi look. To be fair, John, whomst amongst us hasn't gotten annoyed at the excessive usage of the word decoloniality? I think, look, that to say that you're drawing on our own personal experiences being friends with Kieran. But yeah, bad review, and I will be writing a video probably next week, because I'm writing another wisecrack video for the rest of this week. But next week I'll be writing a video sort of response to that bad article, because the reason it exists is not to really provide any criticism or anything about degrowth at all. It's not like it's not really an intellectual intervention. It's to provide shitheads ammunition to and a veil of institutional legitimacy to dismiss degrowth analysis as fake, as unscientific, and pointless. And so I'm gonna do a video to provide the other side evidence to say, and the veneer of the institutional legitimacy of YouTube to say this review is fake and bullshit and unscientific. So we'll get to that next week. Shall we change up the music before we maybe chat about how depressing it is that Akil Mbembe is a shithead? Alright, what vibe should we go for? Oh, thank you, JtD. Could I would you agree that being anti-Landback but pro-Marx is contradictory since settler capitalism extracts surplus value from indigenous land? I don't know if it's hard to say if something is inherently something like being pro-Marx would be inherently contradictory, because people can be pro-Marx in bad ways. I would say that it is theoretically inept and wrong. I think that Landback, I mean, I'd say it was theoretically short-sighted and politically bad. I think probably, yeah, basically. I think a lot of people use Marx and Marxism to make arguments that aren't really sound about Landback and things like settler colonies, especially in the US. Lots of American Marxists get really sensitive when you point out that they live in a genocidal settler colonial construction that needs to be destroyed, and they claim arguments about development of like Marxist developments of like working class and proletariat and things like that. And it's hard to say that that's necessarily not pro-Marx or whatever, but I think it's certainly bad. And being being a good Marxist should mean that you agree with Landback, in my view. Whether or not that's a contradiction, something I maybe have to. I think in some terms, but it might just be that you're pro-Marx in a bad way. Sorry, I mean, that seems like a bit of a babbly answer, but do you get what I mean? Didn't even record that there. Fucking hell. I'm doing a bad job here, sorry. That's quite fun. We can leave that for a little bit before we get on to something more disco, inevitably. It depends on the types of project you're working on or not. The authoritarian communists would like to say that indigenous people aren't immune from capitalism and indoctrination, and therefore Landback is counter-revolution. Yeah, I mean, it's not really an argument about. I know that's not your argument, but it's not really an argument about the legitimacy of Landback there, is it? Because in what context? Either Landback and their indigenous groups who are still pro-capitalist, at least they're still controlling their land, or we live in communism and they're controlling their land. Logan saying, I'm for the protests and against the pipeline, but the people against it are often citing the hereditary chiefs and not the current elected chiefs, so supporting a form of monarchism over democracy. I'm not sure I would. I'm not sure that that's my place to necessarily speak on that. I don't know enough in the specific context to talk about those that cases you're talking about. What I do know about is Nkeel Mbembe's a fucking shithead. So we're talking about necropolitics in the wisecrack video, and we'll get to the wisecrack video as well in a second. I talk about or at least I wrote about necropolitics a bit in that video, in the way that the border sorts and organises populations via their sort of proximity to death, creates certain death zones within within, like, you know, at the state's borders and within refugee camps. And Mbembe in Necropolitics, the book Necropolitics, talks about Palestine being one of the most obvious examples of necropolitics in the world over. The sort of colonial construction of a state where certain populations that exist outside of the colony, within a massive ghetto like Gaza, are subject to necropolitics, states of slow death. So you would think from that sort of analysis that Mbembe would have good politics, but recently he did come out with a statement that basically is like hedging, that's arguing for nuance and dialogue between Palestinians and the Zionist entity that is oppressing them, murdering them, committing genocide against them. I unfortunately wasn't surprised by this. I know a lot of people were, and were saddened and surprised. For a long time, I've known that Mbembe's personal politics are not great. He had previously worked with the Macron government, and, you know, if there's one thing that you learn from existing in the world of academia, it is that people who may have radical and useful theoretical and political theoretical innovations often have very shitty and cowardly politics when it comes down to it. I know another example, and if Luke's still in the chat, Luke knows of this example as well, where very well-known decolonial scholar. I went to a talk where this very well-known decolonial scholar spent the time arguing that borders were necessary to keep out colonists, and that she wasn't a revolutionary, and that things like we need to go back to the form of the university as it existed 10 years ago to avoid the neoliberalization of it. This was in 2021, so this was in 2022, so 10 years prior would have been 2012. roughly 30 years into the marketisation of the university, so I don't know what was being spoken about there. And then later on, a couple of years later, I was at a major event where this academic was the president of the organisation, and just, you know, did an entire talk about how the state of the field of sociology was that we needed to think of new and innovative ways to break down the university and to create new forms of academic teaching, of knowledge production, radical knowledge production. The problem with this argument being made in this location is that it was at a conference which cost me £300 overall to get into the door of, and this was this speech on alternative knowledge production was delivered in a lecture hall to an audience with very little space for actual questioning. So I digress slightly, but, you know, academics often have really shitty opinions, really shitty political opinions, and it doesn't necessarily. I think it can't. I think we can't necessarily discount their terrible political opinions and be aware of the ways in which those political opinions may be embedded within their theoretical work, and that's something you always have to keep an eye out for. But the fact that Ikilma Mbembe and many like when this like latest expression of genocide kicked off in last October, there was a lot of decolonial, post-colonial scholars who either stayed quiet or hedged, creating fucking horrible statements about the horrors that almost that Palestine deserved the horrors because of the October 7th. And a lot of these were sort of post-colonial scholars, decolonial scholars. And a lot of their work can be like good. I mean, a lot of their work can be shite. But a lot of them have good work. It's just that academics are, so many of them are cowardly. So many of them are they're cowards. Their politics is often rubbish, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we've got to chuck out the concept of necropolitics. It's still a useful concept. It's still, the book is still very good. I do remember, it's been a while since I read the book, but I think I do remember it being very bad on Marxism, not understanding basic Marxism. Maybe that's indicative of something. But we don't have to discount Mbembe's work just because he's a shithead. But we do have to be aware of it. Even outside of my own experience, I implore other white people to absorb more than they want to fit into a Marxist socialist context, especially when so many are forced to live on land that's arguably post-apocalyptic. 100%. You get a certain type of Marxist who engages only with canon Marxism, and they're the worst Marxists. To be a good Marxist or a good thinker generally, there is a wide array of work that is worth absorbing into your ideas. The great Fanon quote about Marxism has to be stretched in the colonial context, and I think that's not just true of the colonial context. It has to be stretched in a great many contexts. It doesn't mean abandoning it. It means absorbing valuable insights from a wide array of sources. Bleak that Balabar is participating at that event too, given his work. Yeah, Balabar was one of them. I mean, there's so many. I mean, talking about think people like De Souza Santos who's a big theorist, big deal theorist, great number of sexual assault. Let me back myself up so I don't get sued. Sexual misconduct allegations against him, and a great number of other academics defending him, which is upsetting. Do you think that me shipping Marx with Adam Smith could one day be canon Marxism, or should I let it go? I just love enemies to lovers. I think for a proper enemies to lovers, you would need a different enemy than Adam Smith, because I think Marx doesn't necessarily view Adam Smith as the proper enemy. Like, he thinks he's wrong in a great number of ways, but I think there's probably more enemies around Marx than Adam Smith. He had a lot of enemies. He had personal enemies. But hey, if you want to write some fan fiction, Adam Smith, the sort of dimension. Okay, so we're gonna do this right now, aren't we? Yeah. Okay. So the sort of dimension that we could do Adam Smith, Marx shipping fan fiction for is, I think, more looking at their distinct personalities. Adam Smith was known to be quite a shy, retiring man. Spent a lot of his time by the coast, just away from other people, because he had real trouble. He was just very shy. Marx, often quite the opposite, a very bombastic individual. A real odd couple situation they'd have. He drank, he had fun, he argued, he provoked the police. Very different sort of personality than Adam Smith. Maybe hello Sanam, we're just you've just dropped in as we're doing as I'm constructing what a Marx Adam Smith, I guess at this point, rom-com would look like. I think it would be more sort of the shy retiring versus the bombastic sort of loud introvert, sort of an introvert extrovert sort of situation with Marx and Adam Smith. And there would be friction because they have fundamental disagreements. But I'm sure Marx could show Adam Smith the world. Unfortunately, I think the Marx and Bakunin one might just be enemies to enemies. I don't think they could ever reach lovers. There's a spot between Adam Smith and Bakunin where it's like enemies, but not too much enemies. Yeah. Hey, Michael Dearsley, thanks for joining us. I hope you're enjoying the stream. We're all, for anyone who's new again, we're all very relaxed here. Just drinking some wine. The wine is going down nice. It's colonial wine from South Africa. It is from one of the original Dutch settlers in South Africa, so I'm sure they didn't do anything terrible throughout their 400 years on South African soil. But the wine's nice. And then we were talking about shipping Marx and Adam Smith. An anime version of that, I would be amazed if one day an anime version of that didn't exist. Theo was saying Marx, Bauer, Feuerbach, Stirner love triangle with Daddy Hegel. I think a Marx Feuerbach one, that would be where I think that's the most productive one, because there would be some tension there, but it would also be there would be lust. There would be lust and tension within that pairing. that is where we're going for the shipping, is Marx Feuerbach. Just a chill and innocent stream when we're just making fan fiction about Marx and Feuerbach, having probably an open, not probably, absolutely a polyamorous open relationship. That's what's happened there. Yeah. I am gonna just hop to the toilet for a second, and then I'm gonna make a new tune, and then we'll talk about the wisecrack video, I promise. Let's oops, there we go. All right, let's get another tune on the go, and then we'll carry on. It's fun. I just got to check Twitter earlier on the toilet because what else am I gonna do except Scrabble? But I didn't have time to do Scrabble, and it's great. People, we'll get into this in a second as well. But so today there was an event on left-wing UK Twitter where some account accused prominent gay journalist Owen Jones of being a sex predator, and a bunch of people leapt on that, and I called that homophobic because it is. And unfortunately that escaped containment within UK Twitter and reached Americans. And I just need Americans to calm down and to get some perspective on yourselves. I understand that being British is bad, but if you are an American, you're the one thing that is possibly worse than being British. And if, for example, and let's say this is a real example that applies to my real life, you are accusing you as an American are accusing a British person, a British queer man, of being a paedophile, because all British people are paedophiles, then what you're doing is engaging in homophobia. And if you reject that gleefully and then accuse, say, me of being a nonce, first of all, as an American, you're not allowed to use that word. It sounds absurd in your accent. You're not allowed to do it. You cannot co-opt it. Secondly, get a fucking grip of yourselves. I don't appreciate being called slurs. And it's not fun and playful when Americans do shit like that. You live in the great evil. I am with the Maoists. I spell America with 3 Ks. Get a fucking grip. Sorry, I just checked Twitter, and it's a bad place. Now let's make a good funk tune. Let's make a disco tune. Yeah, I'm not that keen on being called slurs, but I can take being called slurs, I think, better when they're slurs that don't sound ridiculous in an American accent. We are going to make an Electric Six song. going to start this tune again, because I like the chord progression, but I don't think it sits with the lead line. Not on SoundCloud, but I am on Bandcamp. The Bandcamp link should be on my page. If not, I'll find it. Got a bunch of stuff that's on. A bunch of old, not put anything up in a while, but some of the stream, I used to put some of the stream music up on Bandcamp. There we go, that's quite fun. Akil Mebe has released a statement that he is withdrawn from the Africa Global Dialogue Conference. I wonder if he will release a statement for when he's reconsidered his bad politics. Alright, so moment of being annoyed aside, let's talk about finally this wisecrack video. So for anyone who didn't see, I have begun writing videos for the YouTube channel Wisecrack. I will put the video out again, and I recently they put out this video that I'm just putting in chat right now on borders and talk about Mbembe. We use necropolitics a bit in this video. And it's not stuff that anyone who's familiar with this channel will find particularly new or like different. It's stuff that we've talked about on this channel before, but with a slightly different bent. I think the stuff that's interesting. What's the most interesting thing about the experience of writing that video and the video coming out? First of all, it's nice to see a video, like, it's got like 70,000 views at this point, I think. Yeah, 71,000 views in 6 days. That's, that's way better than almost any of my videos I've ever done. So that's great, and it's nice to see my writing go beyond this channel a bit. But what I did, it was quite fun because I took a look through the comments of the video. I've not done it in a couple of days, but a couple of days ago I took a look through the comments, and what's quite fun is seeing a lot of people say, and I saw the Wisecrack tweeting about this the other day. A lot of people saying, we miss the days when you used to do videos about philosophy and not all this politics, and I found that delicious. So it is like, as a video, it's basically arguing that borders as a construction are racist and reproduce a lot of gendered hierarchies as well. The argument essentially being that the difference in distance between far right border politics and neoliberal border politics is pretty much non-existent. And that the reason that there's an apparent contradiction between the neoliberal border politics and the neoliberal idea of like free labour is to essentially criminalise migrants and make it easier to exploit them and to reaccumulate a bunch of gendered and racial social relations to hello, I've not done the grape thing in a wee while. It's suddenly got less cold, but yeah, I am grape boy. We're doing okay. I got slurred out today, and that made me a bit sensitive, but we're doing okay. Yeah, they comment that on every Wisecrack video. I find that very funny though. I like the idea of like someone who subscribed to Wisecrack for their philosophical analysis of things like pieces of media and stuff like that, and they're like, Wisecrack's getting too political for me. When will they get back to doing this stuff? And then behind the scenes, they get me to kick down the door and be like, what if America is fascist and we should all be communists? What about that? How are we doing there for fucking not bringing the politics into Wisecrack? Get fucked. That was the most interesting sort of, I don't know how like channels with such big subscriber counts, like they must just ignore, well, they don't ignore their comments. I've seen a lot of they're responding to the comments, this like things like in the one that I've been writing at the moment, they're saying like we need to think of something that's not quite as bleak. again, I might not be the person that's the best for that scenario, but like you know, a lot of their audiences say they're getting bummed out by the videos, and yeah, that's you've come to the right place. So like they do respond to and read their comments, and I just like I was thinking, like, how do you even manage to respond to or like account for the comments that like a channel with 3 million subscribers had? It's like it's impressive in my, like, I don't know how they do it. It's like sometimes you see people with massive Twitter accounts who still reply to everything in their comments. Like, how the fuck do you do that? How are you doing that and are still functioning as a human being? I don't know. Yeah, political now. I know. I just like I watched wisecrack videos way back in the day as well. So that was like, it was fun to be involved in the stuff they're doing. But I do like the idea of oh, it is a team, yeah. It's like it's more than one person, but still, like 3 million's a lot of folk. When will I go back to swallowing frozen grapes with the wine? I don't know. I kind of went off wine over the summer. Asking the thank you for the membership, subscribing to the membership. I don't know what it does all that much. I put videos up early for members, so like just like patrons, like if you're a member of the channel, you get access to the video like a day or two beforehand. I don't know what else it does. It's been so I've got so few members of the channel. I don't know if it's even worth you. I'm bad at promoting myself. I don't know if it's worth you doing this, but I thank you anyway. When will I go back to swallowing grapes? Yeah. So the summer didn't, like, the summer was a weird mix of like too humid and stuff. But you know what? Members only post is a good idea. Maybe I should every piece of from now on. You've heard it here first. Every Patreon post I put up, I'll make a members only post as well. So you get two things now. That's what we're doing. Some emotes there. Yeah, I remember doing that years ago. Fucking hell. The frozen grape period of the year is over. We're on the red wine now. Maybe next year. The best part is when he swallows them. That feels Is it good when I swallow the grapes? Do you freaks like it when I swallow frozen grapes? Is that what you're here for? Yeah, so now I'm thinking of portals. So you know, from now on, all the Patreon posts, which is stuff like scripts and plans and book reviews, I'll put them on the members page as well. I need to remember to do that. All right. Is there anything else? Anything else that folk were looking to talk about during this? I don't know if anyone's like got any questions. Here's something I'll do as well. I'll put up posts. I used to do this. I used to ask for questions and stuff for like streams, but nobody ever had any questions, so I stopped doing it. I did that because Abby, Philosophy Tube, used to do that. I used to have like Patreon questions and stuff that she'd deal with, that she'd talk about during streams, and I tried that, and nobody gave a fuck, so I stopped doing it. If folk give a fuck about that sort of thing, I'll do it again. Olives can go fuck themselves. Olives can go fuck themselves. Olives are shit. fake, salty, bullshit grapes can go fuck themselves. I saw a post today that had a bunch of chips with a bunch of olives on it, and I had a visceral reaction. Get fucked. Olive oil is good. That can stay. Olives can get fucked. Got a question. What do I do for fun? Well, one of the things I do is play D&D. Every Thursday I'm not streaming here. I'm playing D&D on SK the Crusaders channel, and I really enjoy doing that. That's a great laugh. I read a lot of books, which is Valkes, you coward. That's the coward's take. If you want to stick with me for my political takes, you got to stick with me for my absolutely correct olive grape takes as well. I like to read a lot of books, which is, I guess, unsurprising. I do a lot of these days. I'm at the gym quite a lot, and a lot, like, the area I live in. I've talked about this before. The area I live in is quite sterile. It's not got much of a community to it, except in the gym has got a really good community. So I've started making a lot of friends there. I've started rock climbing, bouldering. I resisted for so long bouldering. Bouldering's like rock climbing, but it's like smaller walls without a harness. I resisted it for so long because being like a left-wing white man in London who's just turned 30, getting into bouldering is becoming a stereotype. And I resisted it for a while. People have been inviting me bouldering for ages. And eventually, a bunch of my gym friends were like, oh, we'll go bouldering together and we'll get a coffee. And I was like, oh, fine. And I went and I was like, yeah, this is good. This is good fun. I guess I'll do bouldering. I guess I'll become a stereotype. I guess that's a thing that's gonna happen. We're just gonna accept that. It's fun. It's fun. Climbing up a wall and then jumping onto a soft floor. It's good. It's good shit. It's fucking good shit, man. And I know it's a stereotype. Oh yeah, all the D&D, so I'm gesturing with a bottle of wine now like a proper drunk. All the episodes of their D&D game is on SK the Crusaders channel. Click on their profile and check them out. They're good fun. Pretty sure that's a hate crime against the Greeks, Italians, and Spanish. I've tried so many olives so many times. There's a stand, a Turkish stand that does there's like a market near where I stay, and there's a Turkish stand that comes up every now and again. They do the best, just these incredible grilled chilies. They're so good. I love them. They also do like stuffed olives, and I keep going back to try them. And every time, I'm like, maybe this time I'll like olives, because it seems like a sophisticated thing to like olives. And I keep trying them, and they're still fucking dog shit every fucking time. Every fucking time. They also do really good North African stuffed tomatoes. Great stuff. Love that place. Only 5 o'clock here, but feeling a dirty martini. Oh, that sounds good. That sounds nice. I can only condone that. That sounds very good. Bouldering is just a funny name. It's like there's like a couple of friends of mine have been trying to get me into doing it for ages, and were annoyed that I only did it with this newer group of friends. It's because I like the newer group of friends better, obviously. Carl and Adam bouldering together. What is bouldering? Is that like rock climbing but over the rocks the size of boulders? It's like rock climbing, but the walls are like much smaller, so you don't need like a harness or anything, and there's like different routes to go up, and that is basically rock climbing. And Sinan and Esk the Crusader has a video with lots of beef in 2 days, so that'll be fun as well. D. Austin Vaughan is arguing if Scotland was is asking if Scotland was an independent socialist country in 2020 in 2004, should they have invaded the rest of Britain for unjust involvement in the Afghan imperialist war? I mean, politically, if Scotland had tried to invade the rest of Britain, I'm afraid I think the rest of Britain would win that. So I think they would have to. What they could do, if Scotland went independent, I think the most radical military thing they could do is to try and confiscate and very rapidly decommission the UK's nuclear arsenal. That would probably be the best that they could do. Unfortunately, I think the other 55 million people, much larger military in England and Wales, would have beaten Scotland on that. Bouldering is more horizontal than vertical. No, I mean you can do horizontal ones, but I don't because the vertical ones are great for me. I'm really tall, so I can get right up and grab those ones. It's fine. The vertical ones, I've got to crouch down like a spider who's getting that's in a corner, and that's such a hassle for me. Someone else had a question. What was it? This is a librarian question, which I am. What do you think? What do you like to read? Not what do you read, but what do you like to read? Recently, I've been reading. I recently finished the Ursula Le Guin Earthsea series. I recently got back into reading fiction after a long time of not having the time to read it. I like a really good fantasy novel, and a sci-fi novel that just brings you somewhere else. That's just great fun. I recently read Barbara Kingsolver's Demon Copperhead, which, as a, shall I say that let's be vulnerable. Shall I be vulnerable? I wrote a bit of fan mail. Oh my god, I just saw my mouth very red whiny. I wrote a bit of fan mail to Barbara Kingsolver after reading, or during reading, Demon Copperhead. Because there was a moment. A lot of Demon Copperhead as a conceit is David Copperfield, but transferred to rural Virginia. And there's a lot, obviously, if you know the story of David Copperfield, there's a lot that is deeply grim about that story, and about that, and it's even grimmer when you sort of move it towards a context you're more familiar with, like rural West Virginia in the 90s. It's closer. So some of the grimness, like I grew up in areas where there was heavy drug addiction, and a lot of the stories about heavy drug addiction, things I recognise and things are closer. So lots of things are really close. But reading the grimness of Demon Copperhead wasn't the thing that really got me emotionally in the book. I got hit really emotionally in the part of that novel where the main character meets his grandmother and meets his grandmother's brother, Mr. Dick. And there was just like one line, and it's like a reprieve in the story with like a momentary things are okay for this moment. And there was a line when they were talking about how they would. The line was like, me and Mr. Dick would make fun of my grandmother because as much as we loved her, she was mental, or something like that. It was like a line like that, and it hit me in such a specific register of like loving your family but being aware that they are batshit. Batshit was the word, actually. It was batshit in the way, and she is batshit. There's something about that really hit me, and it was like just the way it was written hit me in so hard that I had to like write out a fucking letter to Barbara Kingsolver and post it in the mail to be like, this was incredible. I've not had this visceral and emotional reaction to reading a book in such a long time. So I guess, does that answer your question? I liked reading that, and I've liked reading all of Barbara Kingsolver's works. I read, I've spoken about this before. I read, Poisonwood Bible is one of my favourite books. The Tombs of Atuan was my favourite of the Earthsea series as well, I have to say. Tombs of Atuan and Tahanu, they were both the best. But I as much as it is interesting in the Earthsea series when the main sort of wizard is no longer that sort of powerful figure, I kind of just I like the wizard shit as well. It's fun. What was the first thing that radicalized you? I don't know if there was a first thing that radicalized me. I grew up in a pretty left-wing house. While my dad was not a communist. Caroline, how's my PhD? My PhD was finished last November. I am Dr. John the Duncan these days. I've been Dr. John the Duncan since November. I'm just unemployed now. Yeah, so although my dad wasn't a communist when I was growing up, he was left wing and had previously been described by my mother as the only communist, the only revolutionary communist who would plant a car bomb, but worry about double parking, getting a parking ticket. So I grew up in a relatively left wing household. I remember a few years back when I was just starting out my YouTube channel, I went back through like all my comments on YouTube to like just have a look, see if there wasn't anything bad from when I was younger that I'd written there. And the only comments are like on Muse music videos where I'm talking about how much I love Muse, because I was 14, and then arguing with people on Question Time about how hating immigrants is racist. So I was like, okay, so things were for 14-year-old John was okay. There was no bad phase for 14-year-old John. But if there was like a moment that was like not radicalizing, but I think my first political moment was when I was about 10, I think 10 or 11. At the end of my school year, the end of my primary school, they got like the kids to do a play, like a school play, and the one that they got ours to do was a school play about the creation story, an Adam and Eve sort of sing-along musical. And I remember getting like the song sheets for this and just thinking like, this is weird. This is a weird thing to ask me to do. I was like, I don't think I believe in God, and I think it's weird that they're asking me to sing a song praising God in primary school. And this didn't come from my parents at all either. This is very my mum was like, I'm sure it's fine, just do the play. And then I brought home the song sheets and she was like, oh no, you're right, this is weird. And so I staged a sort of one-man sit-out protest against my school for making us do this play. And that was probably my first like political action. I don't think it was something that radicalized me. I don't think I could point to something that radicalised me. It's just been a sort of continuous process of learning more, I guess. Dr. Duncan, I'm Dr. Duncan now, yes. Well, I force everyone to call me Dr. John Duncan now. You know, there used to be one piece of mail that called me Dr. Duncan, and that was junk mail from Dobie's Garden Centre, because when I passed my Viva, I ordered a celebratory plant. This celebratory plant, which has been stubbornly refusing to grow leaves. It's got 2 right now, but it's been stubbornly refusing to grow leaves. I ordered that from Dobie's Garden Centre, and as a little sort of fun quirk, I listed my name as Dr. Duncan when I ordered that. And so I kept getting junk mail from them for Dr. Duncan. But then they stopped. They stopped referring to me as Dr. Duncan. It was the only place that referred to me as Dr. Duncan. And they fucking stopped. So now all my Dobie's junk mail just says Mr. Duncan. So I'm never ordering from them again, the fuckers. That's my petty fucking beef. Blockcam saying, I remember my ostensibly non-religious school would force us all to do prayers at the end of our birthday assemblies, like full-on Christian prayers. Yeah, I mean, the way that secular schooling in Scotland works is that all schools that aren't Catholic are Protestant, and so they are required to have a monthly visit from a pastor, and there were hymns sung and prayers made. And I remember from a very young age just being like, this shit is not for me. This is not my thing. I remember asking my mum, like, like after school one day when we'd had prayers, I was like, is God real? And my mum went, what do you think, John? And I remember just going, I just don't think so. And she was like, yeah, I don't think so either. And then from that moment on, I was just like, this feels weird that they're forcing us to do this shit. And it is weird, and it's not just bad for people who don't believe in God, it's bad for people of other religions. The way that, like, just have all these Christian prayers for Muslim students and Jewish students and Hindu students who they could leave the room, but that's not a great thing for a kid to have to stand up in the middle of a big group of other kids and leave a room. That doesn't feel good for the kid. So, you know, it's not a good situation. Yeah, that it is sprouting, the little trees, getting there. But it's been a while. We are going to get there. Our primary school had a full-on mock wedding when we were 10 at the local church, despite not being a church school. That's not ideal. That's not ideal, I'm afraid. My parents didn't find it particularly an issue, given they essentially think of Christianity as a heretical sect of Islam. That's one way to get around it. A lot of if you're Jewish, that doesn't quite work, unfortunately. How's my love life going? Fucking great. And that's all you need to know. Alright, let's let's get another tune on the go, and then we can prepare your questions for when I'm done with the tune, and then fire off the questions at me, and if I miss them, tag me or whatever. We can figure that out. What sort of vibe should we go for this tune? This next tune? Not sure. Should we do sort of chill? A finger picked sort of chill thing? Do some Sonic music. I don't know. I'm not feeling a Sonic music at the moment, but we'll see. Sometimes it just happens accidentally. Sorry. I don't know why that's happened. I don't know why that went to a weird timing there. I've had slightly too much wine and my playing is getting shitter. I'm sorry, this is shit. Oh, we can get more raid symbols. How about that? Oh, hello, Harker. It's been a while. Everyone say hello to Harker, the storyteller. And please enjoy this very silly synthesizer. Now let's get some silly guitar in there. Alright, let's get a wee lead line in and then we'll get back to chatting. Get your questions in now. We got half an hour left. Questions in now. Oops, sorry, that was too loud. Knowledge and defense. I will take a look at that when I have the chance. Am I your dad? Not yet. Someone asked if I play live anywhere. Not anymore. I miss playing live. If I had the time and the disposable income, I would go out and find a band and play live again. I do miss it. It's good fun. Maybe one day. Maybe one day I'll do that. How's the job search? Bad. Still waiting on. There's still a chance I might be able to. Still waiting on hearing back from a funding application, basically. On my setting up an ecocide research hub at my university, which might be a route for a job. So, and if that's the case, there'll be more ecocide content coming, I guess. Yeah. What's my favourite leftist band? We talked a bit about this. Jesus, this wine has hit me. We talked a bit about this last time. Who doesn't love Chumbawamba, first of all? Then there's what's his name? From Little Things, Big Things Grow. What's his name? Paul something, Australian leftist singer. Then there's the Coup as well. I really like the Coup. I don't know, it's hard to say, like, what counts as, Paul Kelly, he's really good. What counts as, like, a leftist band? Because, like, folk like Run the Jewels talk a lot about shit, about, like, left issues through a left lens, but Killer Mike's politics are shit, so I guess Run the Jewels music is more radical than at least Killer Mike is, I suspect. LP is probably more radical than Killer Mike. Paul Kelly, Paul Kelly's great. Yeah, those are the sort of things. A good selection of good sort of left-wing music there. I do have a playlist on Spotify that I've not looked at in a while. That's protest music from when I was last on strike. That's got a bunch of fun left-wing bands. Let's start a death metal band together. I do not have the musical ability to be in a death metal band. How do you've been courting a fair maiden from the UK, how do I impress her? First of all, never say the words courting a fair maiden ever again, because that is, just don't do that. Be yourself, but don't do that. And I'm sure you'll be fine, just as long as you don't do that. I guess another thing that's in terms of job stuff is I got word that my book proposal has now been sent through peer review, or has been sent to peer review, so hopefully that'll be some progress on that. Favorite classical composer? I used to play classical guitar. Vivaldi is fun to play on classical guitar, and I've always liked Vivaldi and some of the Baroque stuff. But I also quite like some of the late Romantic piano pieces like Chopin and stuff like that. I like that stuff's really nice. So I've got there's a weird, Baroque, skip the rest of sort of classical and early Romantic, and then go straight to late Romantic, and I like that stuff. That's nice. Good run of Rage Against the Machine, Red Gun and Paul Kelly, etc. Yeah, that sort of stuff. Debussy is also good. Favorite food? Oh god, I don't know. Have I made anything particularly nice recently? I think is the question there, because I can never answer the question about what a favorite food is. There's too many foods and they're all too good. So what's something particularly good that I've made recently? I'm very good. I mean, just as a functional question of what I eat most, I guess tatties. I do love a tatty, a potato. Boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew. Great stuff. I make a fucking killer baked potato. Crispy skin, fucking great stuff. I love a good baked potato. I make a very good stuffed pepper with roast vegetable couscous, halloumi. If I've been around a big Tesco, some artichoke. That's fucking great stuff. Roast some potatoes with it. That's a great sort of fancy meal. Go to fast food or street food? I think for fast food or street food, often it'll just depend on what's closest at the time. If I'm hungry, but if I'm if I'm ordering in, I will generally go for a Chinese, or if I can, I really Chinese, Japanese. A pho is really good as well. I really like a pho. All that's really good. Ooh, ginger porridge, that sounds nice. Kneecap, I've heard of kneecap. I was put off by kneecap because they did that whole thing where so there was a boycott of a music festival, and because of the complicity with the genocide. And kneecap essentially said, after speaking such a big game constantly about Palestine, about being radical and stuff, they participated in this music festival which has been asked to boycott, and they basically said, oh, anyone who's demanding that we boycott is middle class and doesn't know that we need to make money. And I was just like, nah, fuck you guys. I'm not fucking with this sort of fucking aesthetic of fucking radicalness. If you spend all your time dressed up in balaclavas and shit and singing radical songs, but you can't fucking stick to a absolute basic position when it gets slightly uncomfortable for you, get fucked. And that really put me off them. I've heard of Loki, but I've never listened to Loki. I've heard Loki is a good I've heard Loki's really nice. From people who've been workers in places that he has spoken at. Because there's two Lokis, two rappers who are Lokis. One of them is Loki, L-O-K-I, who's a Scottish rapper, who is always putting out the most fucking tedious bullshit about, like, woke cancel culture, fucking everything's middle class now, and that's like concerns about race, and like he's recently attacking Creative Scotland and shit like that for taking a stand against transphobia, and doing it in this sort of fucking veneer of, oh, I'm the working class, who's tired of all this sort of middle class posturing and that sort of shit. And I've heard he's a wanker from people who I know who have worked in locations where he has been given a talk or something, that he's been horrible to the staff and that, which I've heard from, like, I've been working in, I worked in a bar where Marky Smith was playing once, who had this reputation for being like the working class hero, standing up for the working class folk. And I was working at a bar when he was performing, and he was fucking terrible to all the staff. We had to stop doing all of our work because he didn't want to see people working in his presence, so that meant we had to stay like 3 hours late that day after work. And then he trashed the green room and like harassed the poor girl who was looking after him in the green room. Horrible bastard. Horrible bastard. Anytime I see people be like, oh, Marky Smith was the real working class fucking hero, I'm like, nah, he was a fucking prick. Horrible bastard. And like, I've heard similar sort of like, nothing that bad, but sort of stuff like, oh, Loki, the Scottish one, refused to like talk to or look at any of the staff when going to do talks and stuff, despite the fact he's got this whole fucking book about how important working class culture is, which my dad read and said it was shit. By contrast, I've heard L-O-W-K-E-Y is very nice, so good vibes there. How do I feel about Settlers the book, and also how do I feel about Settlers lacking identity, leading to mental issues in Anglo colonies like the US and Australia? I've not read Settlers the book, so I can't have an opinion, and I know it makes a lot of people very mad, so I should probably read it at some point. So I don't have an opinion on it, unfortunately. And how do I feel about Settlers lacking an identity? That's, again, this, I'm not, like, I don't know anything in depth about that necessarily, and I'm not sure that I would be the best person to give an opinion on something like that for, I guess. I don't know the sprints, unfortunately. I don't think Loki, the Scottish rapper, is aware of. I mean, he fucking dogpiled me on Twitter once because he went on this right-wing podcast and like was chatting shit about something or other, and I was like, this guy's chatting shit. He's just being racist, and then he fucking spent a whole bunch of time being like, racist? Me? I'm committed to being anti-racist. I'm just saying that working class blood. And I was like, fuck off, you fucking poser shithead. Was there any other questions? Let's see. Do I watch PragerU? I don't watch PragerU. No, I've got other things to do. Have I heard of Anarch's channel? Don't know. I don't really have time to watch watch YouTube anymore, like other YouTube channels. It's one of those things that I used to watch a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of like YouTubers like Abby and H-Bomb and that, way back in the day. But when it became my job, it suddenly became like suddenly watching other YouTube videos became like part of work. So I only very rarely watch a YouTube video, like a YouTube video essay that is for like something other than work. And like there's a very rare sort of, like I'll watch an H-Bomb video because they're so infrequent, or a Dan Olsen one. And I think the value of watching like Dan Olsen stuff is that for anyone that's in the game of YouTube, there are people like Dan Olsen and a couple others who are just like the best at doing videos. They know how to construct and edit a video in a way that other people don't, and it's valuable to watch them, to learn from them. So I'll still watch those videos when they come out as well, just as a sort of like professional. You know what you're doing more than anyone else I can think of. And it's not even necessarily like the content of what's being said, although that's often like good. It's just like it's the way that content is organized and edited on screen that just makes the form of the video very impressive. But in terms of like channels and like leftist content, I just don't. I mean, on the one level, I don't have the time, and on the second, Andrewism is great as well. I've watched Andrewism in the past, but I on one level, I don't have the time to be keeping up with even all my friends' videos, which I feel constantly bad about. And on another, it's just when I do have the time, it's impossible to relax while I'm doing it because it feels like work. So I end up not watching them. Dan Olsen is just yeah, no one does it like Dan in terms of like the form of writing and producing video essays. He has perfected the craft of it, which is I will never be able to perfect a craft of making video essays like that. He is just excellent at it. Leftist cooks are great as well, and they're all lovely. And they manage to provide to do videos that engage people emotionally, which is not something I feel like I'm able to do either, beyond depressing them. But they're also great, and I wish I had time to watch more of their videos. H-Bomb, yeah, I've met him. I've met H-Bomb. He's, I guess, surprisingly tall. He's lovely man. We must discuss Lenin in the state. I am so far down a bottle of wine, but you can try. Debate channels can get fucked. I feel like debate, I'm fairly certain debate channels or debate as a form has died. I don't see people do it anymore. And even like the channels that got big doing debate, I don't see them. And this might be just because I'm good at cultivating fucking my feed now, but I don't see them popping up every now and again. But I do feel like the debate channels have died a death. I feel like they only really succeeded during pandemic because people had nothing else to do with their time. Or a lot of people had nothing else to do with their time. When I found out Olsen edited for Lindsay Ellis, a lot of things made more sense. That does make sense. And I am going to take credit for some of the death of the debate sphere. I think my video on debate was a good video, and probably contributed to a lot of people being like, yeah, fuck this shit, it's bullshit. What's my favorite video game, film, and TV series? Okay, 3 on the go there. Vosh has declined. Yeah, I was just thinking about that the other day. I'll get back to that in a second. Video game, I mean, I've always been a big Zelda fan. Love Zelda. I've played through Breath of the Wild many times. I invited one of my friends round, maybe this weekend, to play Tears of the Kingdom. Great stuff. Film, I mean, Chicken Run is there. It is right there. I don't know. I don't know if I have a favourite film. What was the one? TV show? I mean, I used to be a massive Doctor Who fan, but I sort of dropped off that as well. What was that second question? I've forgotten already. I forgot the question that I was about to answer. There was a video about the about 4 or 5 people have sent me this video on Shrek, this Marxist Shrek video. I think it's great. I think that we're spreading the gospel of Shrek being radical. I'm glad that there's more focus on Shrek being Marxist. Of course, we should be like Shrek is gay, which is important. Mom Panda, I don't think I'm going to be able to properly engage with your questions right now. Partly, I think it's because to do so, I would need to have some books in front of me to properly engage with that, and also a drunk. How much is that? About no more than 3/4. 4/5 of this bottle of wine. And I've not had my dinner yet, so I'm not in the right mental capacity to do any deep sort of philosophizing about the nature of the state and Marx and Lenin's misunderstandings. I know where the book I would go to for that is. But yeah, if you another time, I'm sure I'll talk about this. I'm gonna read Nick Palancis's book on the state at some point as well, and probably end up doing a video on the state. I was looking back when I was doing some writing for the next wisecrack one. I was looking back on my video on Adam Roon and the G word Adam Conover's show, and the stuff on the state there is pretty good. It's a good vehicle for discussing the state and its position within the hegemony. It was I think that was a good video. If I was to make a video on it sometime though, I mean I probably will. Once I read some Palancis, I'll probably end up doing a video on it. There's stuff I want to read and write about and do videos about. I am going to end up doing a video about Rutger Bregman because he pissed me off recently, and I was like, I'm going to fucking read your book. I'm not going to buy it, but I'm going to read it, and I'm going to make a video about how it's bad. I've not read The Spectre Haunting by China Melvin yet. I want to read some more China Melville. That's next on my list, is to read another few China Melville Melville books, and get into that. Moffat and his obsession with the mythologizing of the Doctor ruined Doctor Who for me, and I never got back in. I think that's right. He fucked up the Doctor a bit, in the same way that he fucked up Sherlock Holmes. How the heck are we going to keep warm in Scotland? Oh, thankfully I'm not in Scotland. I was talking the other day about one time I set myself on fire. Hello Red Tixie, how's it going? There's a book that came out recently that had Rex from Rutger and Bill Gates, which gave me bad vibes. I mean, I think Rutger Bregman and Bill Gates gave recommendations for the effective altruism books. Bill Gates did for sure. But yeah, bad vibes. I will end up reading his Utopia of Realists to do a book review of it for some time. Didn't Shrek 2 have an ACAB scene? It absolutely did, because it's a queer masterpiece. Do I read any fiction? I'm reading Stormlight Archives and A Song of Ice and Fire right now. You missed my long discussion of Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver and the Ursula Le Guin books as well. Those are stuff that I've read recently. So I set myself on fire once when I lived in a flat in Glasgow that didn't have any central heating. The floor was a laminate wooden flooring that was set over a carpet and was ruffled in the shape of the carpet that was underneath it. And the windows, for a lot of tenement housing in Glasgow and Edinburgh, the windows aren't allowed to be double glazed because they're historic buildings and you can't tamper with them. So it means that a lot of the windows don't fit into the window frames properly because the building's warped, but they can't replace them. So you have these windows that are single glazed and don't close properly. And if you live in a flat where, let's say, hypothetically, that the previous tenants hadn't paid off a heating debt and the landlord refused to pay off their heating debt so that you, the new tenants, could get heating. Say that was a hypothetical. You also had those windows which let the air just straight through. And it was also ground floor. And it had, say, for example, a hole in the wall of the kitchen leading straight outside where a fan used to be. What you need to do is invest in a lot of electric space heaters. So that's what we did. We got a lot of electric space heaters. And one day, I was very hungover and I was making a pizza and I was chatting to my friends in the living room and living room kitchen, waiting for my pizza to cook. And I was standing right next to one of the space heaters, trying to warm my bones in the mid-December bleakness of Glasgow. And as I was warming my bones, my cotton joggers got too warm and set on fire, and I had to very quickly put the fire in my trousers out before I got my pizza out the oven. That was a bad day. So yeah, that's a bit of John lore. Setting myself on fire. All right, let's. We're closing on to 11 o'clock, and I still need to make myself dinner. Oh, Lewis Anderton, you just walked in just as I was saying that we're ending. Yeah, we'll call that a day right now, and I will leave you again, not with this tune, but with one of my Ableton tracks. Let me get that up. With one of my Ableton tracks, and we'll leave it. That's about 4 minutes long. And we'll see you all in 2 weeks. Next week, again next Thursday. What's for dinner? Probably an omelette, something quick. Next Thursday, don't forget we will have D&D on SK the Crusader, which is fun. So join us there next week for D&D, and in 2 weeks for another stream. Thanks for coming along, and I'll see you then. Bye. Why is that not playing? Let's see. There we go. That's too loud. There we go. Alright, we'll see you next week. That was the wrong tune. So I'm gonna put the right tune on and leave it playing and end there.